Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video in which I'm going to be sharing with you the entire Hourglass holiday collection for this year. I purchased the collection from the Hourglass website the instant that it became available. I just received it today and I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts regarding the collection as well as show you a demonstration of how I apply the products. Also, at first it was a little bit confusing about what shades were going to be included in the collection, and we're going to touch upon that too. Before we get into that, if you're new here, I'm Yori. Thank you for clicking on this video. I hope you're going to enjoy this one and consider subscribing and joining my makeup family. I do a lot of makeup reviews. I do subscription box unboxings and things like that. I would love to have you join me for a future video. Also, I'd like to take a minute to thank my first 5 commenters on my previous video. Thank you so much for showing my channel lab love. I really appreciate it. You know I enjoy chatting makeup with you in the comment section. Those with the YouTube video will have the YouTube logo and be linked down below in case you're looking for some fun new channels to watch. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into the Hourglass holiday collection. I'm not sure if Hourglass is going to be launching any other items for their holiday collection, but so far there are 3 items in the line. There is the Ambient Lighting Edit Sculpture Palette, which retails for $80. It is a 6-pan palette. There is also a quad, which retails for $58, and this is called the Lighting Edit Mini. And there is a lipstick duo that has a full-size lipstick in the container as well as a refill that you can use in the other container as well, and the price of the lipsticks is $48. Altogether with tax, I paid $205 with 8 cents from the Hourglass website. I did receive the items about 2 or 3 days after I placed my order. It was shipped pretty quickly after I placed my order. Now, since the launch on the Hourglass website, the 6-pan palette has become available on Sephora. Now, Hourglass is a cruelty-free brand. The shelf life on the larger palette is going to be 12 months, and this year they're doing gold packaging with this kind of architectural detail. So you can see it's not a flat palette, it has sort of these edges to them. So I can see where the name sculpture is coming from, and this is what your 6-pan palette looks like. Now, from this palette, you're going to have 2 finishing powders, a highlight, a bronzer, and 2 blushes. From my best understanding and what I've looked at comparing the Hourglass website along with my own collection, the 3 products along the bottom are going to be brand new. The 2 finishing powders, you'll find them in almost any Hourglass palette that you might have, as well as the highlighter. I'm going to show you some swatches. I did swatch the finishing powders as well, even though you're not going to see them on my skin. They're really just more of a translucent powder to give you kind of a finishing effect. You're going to see me apply everything in this palette with the exception of that brighter blush color, so you'll get an idea of how the products apply. In terms of the amount of product that you're getting here, you're never getting a bang for your buck with these palettes. The advantage is that you're getting a multitude of products to try. It's always going to be more economical to purchase the full-size item if you're looking for a specific product to last you for a very long time. The beauty is that you do get a collection so that you get to sample a variety of their products. Now, if I look at the back side of the palette, it is made in Italy, and it looks like each specific powder is 1.4 grams. So we're talking about the size of a fairly decently sized eyeshadow, just to give you an idea. One challenge of using a palette like this is that the products are really quite small, and if you use a typical size brush, like here for instance, I have a brush that I frequently use for bronzer, you can see that if you try to go into that, it really occupies a lot of space. So it's going to be important that you use small brushes. I did pick up a couple of the Hourglass brushes. I've had these in my collection for a while. And I haven't really gotten around to using them, so I thought that this would be the ideal time because as you can see, this brush fits way more neatly into the palette itself. The other brush is this dual-ended one, which is a little bit larger. I use the larger end for the finishing powders, kind of went in there, and I use this one for the highlights. So it's just another thing to keep in mind that the pans are so small. If you don't want to cross-contaminate the products, then you're going to want to use small brushes. I don't know if that aligns with the way that you do your makeup or not, but with brushes like this, it's relatively simple to do. The palette is beautiful. It has a beautiful mirror on the top. I did like this one. I enjoyed it. In the demo, you're going to see me apply this palette. Next, let's move on to the lipsticks. These retail for $48. Now, when you're talking about the price of an individual lipstick, they're usually $36, and then the refills will run you about $22. So altogether, you do get a savings buying it in the bundle. I think the colors were beautifully chosen. I was actually quite surprised to see how bright the red one was going to be. I was expecting something, I don't know, like I'm not sure what I was expecting, but it's brighter red than I originally anticipated, and I'm going to show you some lip swatches as well. I think these are beautiful lip products. I have always loved them. The component on the lipstick is going to be a little bit different. It again has that kind of geometric shape to it rather than being just a slim cylinder as the other lipsticks in this collection are. I think it's very beautiful, but it would have also been nice to have it be consistent with the others. But I do think that it's absolutely beautiful, and I am wearing this lip product, which this one is in the shade At Dawn. It's the one I'm wearing, and I'm wearing the Lancome Juicy Tube in the shade Marshmallow Electro over top. Now let's go ahead and talk about the quad. This one caused quite a bit of controversy, and the reason for it is because they were kind of marketing it initially as if it was going to be a new product. Last year they did release a quad, which is a beautiful quad of blushes. I do own that one as well, and so it was a quite popular product back then. So you can see here that the palette is similar to the larger palette with those architectural kind of designs. This one, again, the Lighting Edit Mini, and you get 4 products here. And I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. So the controversy that resulted with this small palette is that the powders that are here were present in last year's larger unlocked palette. I didn't realize this when I was purchasing it because on the Hourglass website, when you go to the product page, there are actually several tabs about the product. Some of them are like ingredients, how to use, and the first one is like just the general information about the product, which is where I personally would have expected to see the shade names, but the shade names were actually not there. It just told you what kind of powders they were. It was a bronzer, it was a blush, it was a finishing powder. So I wasn't exactly sure what the shades were, but they are hidden in the section. If you look on how to use, then you can see the shades again. And so I realized when I received my palette that I already own absolutely all of these shades, which is why I didn't swatch this quad. But what I did do is swatch my unlocked palette from last year. So if you can see here, the shades that are included in the quad are going to be the finishing powder, this blush right here, the bronzer, and the highlight. What I have to say about that quad is that it was beautifully curated. If you want a one and done face palette, this is beautiful. It's perfect, and the shades were selected really nicely to complement one another. Now, Hourglass, as usual, it's not a super inclusive brand in terms of these types of powders. Now, their products can be built up, but these bronzers are not going to be showing up on a deeper skin tone. And that's a major criticism that Hourglass has received over and over and over again, and they are yet to respond to it, unfortunately. So that is definitely something that we need to keep the pressure on and keep that feedback coming so that they do include a shade for everyone. In general, even these palettes are not a one size fits all. There's always going to be 1 or 2 shades that you may not use or may not prefer. So just something to keep in mind. But this was last year's palette. It's a beautiful little palette. I do love it. The quality is great, and I am able to use all the shades. So if you think that the shades in the quad would work for you, I think the quad is actually a really excellent buy because of the way that it was curated and the fact that you have one of each type of product, which is just really good because you'll have one finishing powder, one highlighter, one bronzer, one blush. It would just be an excellent little travel palette. I just think it's a really great idea. It's also a tip off that the packaging has that little bunny there because that's exactly how last year's was. So again, just please be aware that this is going to be 100% repeated shades and you may already have them. Let's go ahead and get into the demo. I'm going to show you how I applied the larger Lighting Edit palette, and I'm going to show you some lip swatches as well. Now, working with this palette, it's a super small palette. They always suggest that you use their brush. This brush is called the Lighting Edit brush, and I have that one. I also have their larger brush that they released with the powder that they have, the Veil powder. You can see it's considerably larger. This one is called the powder brush. So I'm going to use a combination of these 2 brushes, obviously the smaller ends. I'm going to start with the bronzer. Right now I'm wearing foundation powder only underneath my eyes to set my concealer and a little bit of a cream contour. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the bronzer first. These bottom shades are supposed to be the ones that are new to the collection. So let's see. Okay, so right away I can see that this one is considerably deeper than other bronzers that they've released in their palettes are, and that's a good thing because Hourglass has typically had fairly light products and they're not very inclusive in the shade range, especially when it comes to curated collections such as this one, where, you know, they don't come out with a variety. Like, there's one option only and it may or may not work for different skin tones. For instance, the first one that they released, there's a bronzer in there. I could honestly use that as a setting powder. I have that first palette because I got it as a Sephora points perk. I saw it pop up in the Rewards Bazaar once and I was like, I'm gonna definitely take advantage of this. Now, one of the things about this brush, I know it's not a review about the brush, but one of the things I notice about it is that it's quite a firm brush, and so it does pile on the product kind of in targeted areas rather than diffusing it, which is what I prefer. I prefer to work with fluffier brushes. Now this one is more fluffy, but I'm going to use that one for blush because I wouldn't want to use this part for blush. So okay, so I'm definitely seeing the bronzer. It has a slightly rosy tone, which is okay. It's not my favorite. I prefer more golden tone bronzers. They just suit my skin tone a little bit better, but at least this one is showing up, and as I understand it, it is a limited edition shade exclusive to the palette. Who knows? You know, they may turn around later and say that it was in high demand and then they'll release it as a single. You know, we can never tell. Now, because it did apply kind of in a targeted fashion, I'm gonna go ahead and go over it with this larger brush just to diffuse it out a little bit. I prefer my bronzer to look very well blended. I'm going to use finishing powders at the end anyway, but I like to start out with a pretty well blended bronzer. With regard to the two blushes, because of my eye look today, I think I'm gonna go with this one. That will be the one called Mood Exposure. Now, there was another blush in another palette called Mood Flush, and I'm thinking that will be something different, especially since they did say that this bottom row was going to be all new shades. So when I share my thoughts on the collection, probably before the demo, I will let you know how I feel about it. So the blush is showing up nicely. It does have a very nice cool tone, which is kind of what I was looking for with this look. It's giving me a very pretty flush. Okay, I like it so far. Now, I have been wearing my foundation for quite some time, so the foundation is not wet to the touch at all. I don't feel any tackiness, so don't feel that the blush is grabbing in any specific part because my foundation is not set. This is the way I've been typically doing my makeup recently, and it's blending out fine. This part of the brush is a lot less dense, and I think it gives me a prettier application in terms of blush. I think it's pretty. It's a pretty shade. Now, what I'm going to do is for the highlighter. That one is called Glistening Strobe Light, and that is a repeat shade. So all of the shades in the top are repeats. I'm gonna go in with the fluffier part of the larger brush, and I'm going to apply it to the upper part of my cheekbones, just outside here. This is a super soft brush, so I'm not gonna get a super intense application, and that's okay because I'm not looking for a very bold highlight today. Even though this is one of their metallic ones, if you spray your brush or if you apply some setting spray, it's gonna be more intense. I know that's true for the Hourglass powders. The nice thing about the Hourglass powders is that they don't emphasize texture, so they're very good for more mature skin. They're very good for dry skin, which is my skin type, and I really enjoy that about them. I'm going to apply a little bit to my brow arches just to tie everything together. It's a beautiful color. Now, the two ambient lighting powders, the finishing powders, are dim light and diffuse light. Both of these have been in other products before, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dip my brush in both of them. I'm going to go ahead and use the larger part of the brush now, and I'm just dipping back and forth between the two. And I'm just going to use that as a final buff. I'm using them as I would my Guerlain Meteorites, which I absolutely love, but I do love the Hourglass powders in this way as well. I think it gives the skin a beautiful finish, and actually my skin is looking better than it did when I started because I'm using the Oma Beauty foundation. It's the second time I use it today, and I'm still kind of getting used to it, so I'm using it with a different primer. Last time I used it with an oil, and I thought it worked fine. But today, instead of applying my oil with my skincare routine, what I did was I used a hydrating primer by Laura Mercier, and so far I like it better with the oil, honestly. So my skin was looking a little bit dry when I started, and I think that now it's kind of blurring that out and it's not emphasizing the dryness that I had going on before. And then of course when I apply a little bit of setting spray, that's going to be even better. So I'm just blending and buffing my products all together. I think I will try to intensify the bronzer a little bit because I think I lost some of that. This side of the brush is really nice. I can see why people like it so much. I've had it in my collection for a while and I haven't used it. Typical. So I feel that the blush stayed really nicely, but I do feel I lost a little bit of that bronze, and so I'm going to just kind of bring it back up. Much better. So now I'm just using a light hand and I'm being very precise in where I'm putting it. But yeah, that's much better. I'm gonna put some here along my hairline as well. I'm going to apply just a teensy bit more highlight for good measure. And here is what the palette looks like applied. I'm wearing all of the shades except for the center blush. And the center blush is called Strobe Blush Vibrant Flush. So here is the complexion. If you like the eye look, I'm using the brand new Charlotte Tilbury palette. This is the Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotize palette. It's her holiday collection and I created the eye look from that. Probably it'll be the video before this one. I did also pick up the lipsticks, so I want to swatch them for you. These are slightly different than the other Hourglass lipsticks. You are getting 2 in the package, and this one is a little bit more structural, I guess, to go with the sculpture theme. And you're getting 2 shades. One is lighter, and the other one is a little bit more of a bold red. So I'm gonna start with the one that comes in the component, and this one is called At Dawn. I looked at these super closely because of my friend Jessica's video, and I honestly can't see anything wrong with mine. There looks to be like a little hole in it, but other than that, it looks like my other Hourglass lipsticks have been, but I'm gonna link her video in the description box so you can check it out if you're curious. She didn't have a positive experience with Hourglass, and so in order to get a full picture, you know, make sure you check out a lot of reviews so that you can make the best choice for you. So this is the shade At Dawn. So there you have it, the shade At Dawn. It's a very nice nude. It has some depth to it, which I appreciate it. It's not going to be a nude that will be washing anybody out, I don't think. It has a little bit of a rosy tone, a little bit more warmth to it. Not necessarily a type of color I would pair with this eye look, so hopefully the other lip will go better. A very pretty color on its own though. The next one is called At Dusk, and I think this one is going to be very nice with my makeup today. Or not. Goodness, that is very red. So this is the shade At Dusk, and goodness, it's got a lot more burgundy in it than I originally thought. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a brownie red. It's a beautiful holiday red, I'm not going to deny that. Like for a New Year's Eve look or Thanksgiving. My lip line is not looking the greatest right now, but it never does when I'm doing lip swatches. But what a beautiful color. It is a beautiful color, definitely like a wine vampy kind of color, one that I would do with a lighter eye, maybe just a sheer shimmer on the lids and a really bold lip color like this. The quality of these lipsticks are really good. You're not getting a lot of product in them, but they're very creamy, very comfortable, very pigmented, clearly. And yeah, so this is the second shade. It's gonna be tough to get this one off. I'm probably gonna end up wearing the other one with a gloss over it. Beautiful color though, truly. Hopefully seeing the products in action was helpful to you, and actually seeing the brushes as well. They're beautiful brushes. These are vegan brushes, so they are synthetic brushes in case you prefer your brushes to be of that type. And they worked beautifully. Again, like I mentioned in the demo, the firmness of some of these brushes is not my ideal, but I was able to get it to work out fine, and they're beautiful brushes. I can see why people like them so much. I was also commenting in my try-on portion how my friend Jessica also purchased everything that I purchased, and she made a video which I will link in my description box down below if she still has it up, which basically her products arrived damaged or with contaminants, and that's really alarming. I looked at mine, like I was just short of going to buy a microscope so that I could really see what was going on, like Raw Beauty Christie. But I looked at it super closely, and I didn't see anything in my specific products, and I looked at them very, very closely before I used them. I don't see anything there, but she experienced that. I absolutely trust her, and so it's just something to keep in mind if you're planning to purchase from the Hourglass website. I don't know if it's a quality control issue. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. The beauty of YouTube is that you're going to have multiple people reviewing these products. When you're spending this much money on a collection, I absolutely encourage you to take the time to view several reviews of people closer to your skin tone, your skin type, people whose preferences you align with, so that you can get a good idea if this is going to be a good place to spend your money. Because of her experience, I'm a little hesitant to recommend the collection, but I'm going to base it on my experience. And on my experience, these are the typical Hourglass products. I do think that the colors were selected very nicely. I do appreciate that the bronzer in the larger palette is a little bit darker. You could see that it actually showed up on my skin tone when I first applied it, and I was able to diffuse it out. So I think it's beautiful. I do love the quad. It's not for me because I already own everything in there, and it would just make absolutely no sense for me to spend $58 on products I already have. But if you don't have them, honestly, of the 3 products that were released, the quad is an excellent way to go. So if you missed out on that original palette last year and you were kind of sorry about that, getting the quad is definitely a good idea at this point. Like I said, I'm not sure if they're going to be adding any other products to their holiday collection. Usually they have some of the scattered light shadows and some other things, but I don't see anything just yet. Right now, only the larger palette is available on Sephora. The other items are all available on the Hourglass website, but my guess is that they're going to be available at Sephora and also at Beautylish shortly. That's everything for this video. I hope that you did find it helpful. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comment section down below, and I will do my very best to answer them. If you did enjoy my video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a nice comment down below. It really helps my channel so much if you engage with it. Other than that, that's everything for me today. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me. I hope you relax and take a little break from the busy day to day. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you very soon on my next video. Bye-bye.